Helldivers 2 throws you into a battlefield unlike any other, chaotic, punishing, and unforgiving. It's a game that demands skill, coordination, and a willingness to sacrifice. But beneath the surface, it's also an intricate psychological experiment, one that begs questions like what drives players to risk it all for their team, and why does the game's relentless emphasis on cooperation feel so uniquely satisfying, yet sometimes weird? Is there something more, something sinister to managed democracy? On this channel, I go beyond just video games. I helldive into the stories, lore, and psychology of games and their characters. Like and subscribe if you want a nice cup of liberty. To understand why the Helldivers exist and how humanity found itself in a perpetual galactic war, we need to look at the history of Super Earth and its managed democracy. By the year of 2084, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel, a groundbreaking leap that allowed us to expand beyond our solar system. With this expansion came the first contact and the first conflict. Humanity encountered the Terminids, an insectoid species occupying vast regions of the galaxy. Initial reports suggested that the Terminids may have been open to communication, but Super Earth's approach was aggressive. Expansionism, you see, wasn't just policy. It was doctrine, practically divine, driven by a regime dedicated to permeating its ideology across the stars. This ideology, managed democracy, was a system where elections and decision-making were streamlined through computer-aided voting, ensuring that all choices aligned with the government's goals. Conflict with the Terminids escalated into the First Galactic War. There is no evidence to say that the Terminids aggressed against the humans first, but asking questions is a crime against democracy. However, during the war, humans discovered a surprising resource. The corpses of Terminids produced a valuable substance called E710. So, naturally, as we humans do, with this discovery came the establishment of entire colonies whose sole objectives were to farm and harvest the Terminids on a massive scale.
Everything serves liberty in the end, even our enemies.
This new resource became critical to fueling human progress. The aggressive exploitation of these creatures led to the catastrophic containment breaches, unleashing the Terminid hordes across the vast regions of the galaxy. What began as a calculated strategy to extract resources quickly spiraled into chaos, forcing humanity to confront the consequences of its actions. Biologically, Terminids operate as a hive-like species with a collective consciousness. They're driven by instinct, which makes them both predictable in their aggression and endlessly dangerous in their adaptability. Super Earth has officially labeled the Terminids as fascists, despite the fact that they don't have any capacity for ideology or political comprehension. But if you can galvanize the people against a common single enemy, they will proudly rise up to fight in the name of freedom. Sheep are happy enough to be given direction and purpose. The Terminids' relentless aggression is as much a reaction to humanity's actions as it is an inherent trait of their species. They are a force of nature, forced into being violated and exploited, ultimately clashing with humanity's desire to control and consume. In the end, the Terminids are one of the most compelling adversaries in Helldivers 2. They're a reminder that animals backed into a corner will fight back with relentless drive. They remain one of the greatest challenges to Super Earth's dominance and to humanity's survival. But can humanity survive against an unstoppable force that doesn't tire, doesn't feel, and doesn't stop? As humanity grappled with the resurgence of the Terminids, a new threat emerged from the west, the Terminators. This is the only faction to be officially stated as being the instigators of war, the first ones to attack the humans. However, don't think too much about it, because doing so would be considered hate against democracy. This mechanical army, seemingly devoid of any biological origins, declared its intent to eradicate humanity entirely. The Automatons are one of the most horrifying enemies in the world of Helldivers 2. Their emergence marks a pivotal moment in the galaxy's history, setting the stage for the Second Galactic War and cementing their place as a central threat to Super-Earth and humanity. Their military structure is built around precision, coordination, and overwhelming firepower. Their mechanical nature grants them incredible resilience and efficiency, making them one of the most challenging adversaries in the Helldivers universe. Advanced technology and unwavering determination makes them a nearly unstoppable force. The Automatons' origins can be traced back to their cyborg ancestry, a faction encountered during the First Galactic War. Speaking of ancestry, today's democratic sponsor for this video is 23 and once humans, citizens of Super-Earth, who sought independence and rejected the regime's control. To achieve this, they augmented themselves with machinery, forming the Collective of Cyberstan, a technologically advanced and ideologically defiant group. After their defeat at the hands of Super-Earth, the humans would enslave the cyborgs, forcing them to work in mines. It's believed that the remnants of the cyborgs fully embraced mechanization, abandoning their humanity entirely, desperate to be free from their enslavement, free from Super-Earth's vision of liberty, and free from the limitations of the biological form. They embody a distinct ideology that stands in direct opposition to Super-Earth's managed democracy. Their use of socialist imagery, including their emblem featuring a red star, and their propaganda slogans such as "We've eliminated inequality," suggest a pursuit of a society free from human disparities. To the Automatons, the biological imperfections of humanity, greed, inequality, and oppression are flaws to be eradicated. Where Super-Earth seeks to spread its managed democracy, the Automatons represent a vision of a mechanized utopia devoid of human suffering, but also devoid of humanity itself, along with the imperfections that always come along with being human. As they made their incisions into human territories, their incursions threatened the very existence of Super-Earth. The mere fact that the cyborgs desperately sacrificed their own humanity for their cause is telling in it of itself. Are the Automatons the villains meant to be destroyed, or are they simply the inevitable consequence of humanity's domination over everything? But the Automatons still are not the only ones to suffer at the hands of humans, because another species would return for revenge against Super-Earth, the Illuminate.
The Illuminate are an ancient alien species whose existence predates humanity's by millennia. In the First Galactic War, they attacked Super-Earth without provocation.
The history of the Illuminate, also known as the Squ'ith, stretches back thousands of years, predating humanity's emergence as a species. These guys were developed before humans would even be called Homo sapiens. They started as an aquatic species on their home planet, evolving into a highly advanced civilization that mixed science with what seems to be something like magic. Their society was built around knowledge. Those who gained the most became leaders, while those who didn't were cast aside or forced into battle. Over time, they built a powerful empire across the stars, conquering or destroying any other species they saw as beneath them. Much like the humans, superiority meant the natural right to dominate those who were weaker. Led by the Great Eye and the High Council, they ruled through fear, technology, and a belief that they were destined to control the galaxy. But everything changed when they met the humans. The Illuminates' first contact with humanity didn't even start with words. It began with silent observation. Long before they officially approached the humans, the Squ'ith sent recon missions to Earth in the early 21st century. These missions involved advanced spacecraft that appeared in Earth's skies, hinting at UFOs or myths by early human observers, assessing their technological level, social structures, and potential as either a threat or a species to hold dominion over. Humans had no idea that they were being watched, and any encounter with Illuminate technology were simply dismissed as conspiracy theories. However, the Illuminate were gathering vital intelligence to determine what to do with this species, and when humanity eventually advanced enough to form the Federation of Super Earth, to begin expanding to the stars, the Illuminate chose to reveal themselves, making contact with them in order to establish peace. But here's where the truth begins to get murky with whose intentions were true and what the reasons were behind everything. Because on one hand, the Illuminate saw that the humans were a growing threat that needed to be subdued. So they pretended to offer peace, but their real goal was control. In this perspective, the Squ'ith were the invasive species and the humans were just defending themselves. But on the other hand, what if the Squ'ith really did come in peace? What if they really were a peaceful society who really did seek to ally with the humans, but the humans saw them as a threat because of their advanced technology, their weapons of planetary destructive capabilities, or even saw that the Illuminate had something of value for the humans, just like how the humans saw value in the Terminids and the Cyborgs. Despite offering peace, the Illuminate were a deeply expansionist and authoritarian empire wielding weapons of mass destruction capable of annihilating entire planets, not to mention their society's long history of subjugating and eradicating other species in the name of enlightenment. And that made it clear to humanity's leaders that coexistence was unlikely. The Federation of Super Earth, which had just unified humanity after a devastating war with the bugs, recognized the threat that the Illuminate posed to their survival. And waiting for the Illuminate to make the first move would have been absolutely a death sentence. The Squ'ith were not just technologically superior, but also ideologically driven by their belief in their own supremacy, just like them. The Squ'ith's vast empire, their history of conquest and possession of devastating technology left little room for negotiation. Acting preemptively, pragmatically, humanity launched a first strike against the Illuminate's colonies in the southern Milky Way. The official narrative framed this as a necessary act of defense because of the discovery that the Squ'ith had world-ending technology. It was also a naturally strategic choice to eliminate the potential threat before the Illuminate could grow stronger or take the initiative themselves. That's not all, because the Illuminate did end up having two things from which democracy would benefit from. And it wasn't their psionic and energy manipulation, it wasn't their, at the time, super advanced spacecraft design, and it wasn't even their gravitational and cloaking tech. How do you think the humans even achieved interstellar travel? Humanity's ability to travel faster than light, or FTL, is one of the key advancements that allowed Earth to dominate the Star Wars. Because this capability wasn't entirely homegrown. It was laughably, disgustingly bolstered by the technological spoils of war. Following the defeat of the Illuminate during the First Galactic War, humanity liberated much of their advanced technology. Among these spoils were breakthroughs in FTL travel, which enabled humans to establish a vast network of interstellar pathways known as FTL lines. These FTL lines became the lifeblood of Super-Earth's galactic expansion. The lines allowed for rapid travel between colonies, facilitated supply chains, and ensured military forces like the Helldivers could respond to threats across impossible distances. FTL technology came with one significant limitation, and it all comes full circle. Watch this. FTL travel requires a substance known as E710 to function. The same substance discovered to be harvestable from the bodies of Terminids, humanity's insectoid adversaries. This resource became critical not just for human progress, but for the continued operation of FTL lines. In addition to FTL technology, humans also gained access to the Illuminate's most enigmatic creation, that world-ending technology that initiated their preemptive strike against the Squ'ith: dark fluid. This exotic material possessed properties that defied the laws of physics, most notably its ability to generate gravitational singularities capable of evolving into black holes. While initially a mystery and experimental to humanity, Super-Earth scientists quickly recognized its potential as a weapon of unparalleled destructive power. They would even use this weaponized variant of dark fluid by injecting vast amounts of it into a planet's crust to make a devastating planet-sized black hole that would eradicate any foe, but in one specific instance, the Terminids. But this operation did come at a cost. It exhausted Super-Earth's reserves of dark fluid, making future uses unlikely unless new sources are discovered. And wouldn't you know, just our luck, the Illuminate have come back knocking on our doors, so perhaps Super-Earth will be able to appropriate more dark fluid soon. This reliance on conquered technologies and harvested resources shows that Super-Earth's been reading Sun Tzu's Art of War. But it also shows the paradox of Super-Earth, a society that claims to spread managed democracy and freedom, while relying on exploitation and destruction to maintain its supremacy. Whether it's the Terminids' corpses fueling FTL travel, the Cyborgs for enslaved labor, or the Illuminate's technology, humanity's survival in Helldivers is built upon the ashes of its enemies. The question remains, at what point does this strategy of survival turn humanity into the very monsters that they claim to fight against? With Super-Earth plunged into conflicts on multiple fronts, faced with existential threats from both biological and mechanical enemies, humanity has turned to its elite fighting force, the Helldivers. The Helldivers are the sword and shield of Super-Earth, deployed to protect humanity and spread managed democracy across the galaxy. At its core, Helldivers 2 is built on the psychological concept of collective sacrifice, the idea that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Every mission forces players to prioritize the survival and success of the team over individual goals. Friendly fire? It's always on. Reviving teammates puts you at risk, and every objective relies on collaboration. This isn't just a design choice, it's the game's thesis. You win together, or you lose alone. One team, one fight. Psychologically, this taps into humanity's most deeply ingrained instincts, our need to belong. Humans are social creatures, wired to work together in groups, especially when survival is on the line. Humans did not become the apex species alone. Divided, we would have been conquered, but united, we hold complete mastery and command over the world. its resources and every being in it. In general, psychologists would call this reciprocal altruism, the idea that we're willing to help others because in turn, they'll help us. And there's a little bit of irony in there. Is it really altruism if we're doing things because we're expecting something in return? But I digress. In Helldivers 2, this manifests in every moment of gameplay. You might throw yourself in harm's way to rescue a teammate because you know at some point, or at least you hope, that they'll do the same for you. But the magnificence of the game is that it doesn't make this easy. The battlefield is chaos absolute. Bullets flying everywhere, swarms of enemies closing in, objectives on the verge of collapse. And in these moments, the game creates a kind of psychological tension, a push and pull, a tug of war, if you will, between your instinct to survive and your obligation to the group. Do you rush to complete the mission objective knowing it's going to cost your life or that it might? Or do you hold back, hoping someone else will take the risk? Or do you wait and approach the entire objective as a team? This tension mirrors real-world psychological dilemmas. Studies on group dynamics have shown that when people work together, they often experience what's called a diffusion of responsibility, the tendency to assume that someone else will take action. In Helldivers 2, this dynamic plays out in both thrilling and frustrating ways. Miscommunication or hesitation can lead to catastrophic failure, but when the team clicks and every player does their part, the payoff is immense. And that's the beauty of what psychologists call collective efficacy. The shared belief that together, the group can achieve what no one person could do alone. And yet, the game isn't just a celebration of teamwork. It also forces players to confront the darker side of collective sacrifice. The universe of Helldivers 2 is unapologetically satirical, with a heavy propaganda narrative that glorifies loyalty to the regime of Super Earth. You're not just working for your team, you are serving a militaristic society that demands total obedience. Every mission is framed as part of a larger, noble cause, but it's that very satire which invites you to question whether the cause is worth your loyalty. But that's not all, because you might even find yourself committing morally questionable acts for the sake of the group or the mission. I mean, think about it. You drop into alien worlds, destroy entire species, and justify it as necessary for humanity's survival. But is it really? Do the Helldivers ever stop to ask themselves if they're on the right side of war? Do they even have time to? The game's satirical tone doesn't provide easy answers, leaving the players to wrestle with their own moral justifications. And at the same time, the humor in the game, the over-the-top propaganda, the absurdly patriotic tone works to soften this dissonance. It's a clever psychological trick. By making you laugh, the game lets you distance yourself from the implications of your actions. It's easier to justify a morally gray decision when it's wrapped in an obnoxious comedic gold and blue box. The absurd slogans, it's all for play and laughs, and psychologically, that's brilliant. Research shows that humor can reduce the emotional weight of difficult topics, making them easier to process. In Helldivers 2, the humor creates distance between players and their actions. You're not supposed to feel bad about the alien genocide because it's all part of the joke. But does that excuse it? Or does it make you complicit in the satire? There is also the illusion of freedom. You see, on the surface, the game gives you a choice. You can pick your missions, customize your loadout, and you can decide how to tackle objectives. But ultimately, every action you take serves the same regime. You are a cog in the machine, following orders for a cause you did not choose. Psychologists may refer to this as learned helplessness, when individuals feel trapped in a system they can't escape, and so they stop questioning it. And in Helldivers 2, the gameplay reflects that. Because no matter how many missions you complete, no matter how many aliens you kill, nor how many citizens of Earth die, the war never ends, and you're fighting for a system that doesn't truly value you. It only values what you can do for it, what you can accomplish before you die. There is the sheer emotional impact of success and failure. The game doesn't hold your hand. Missions are brutally difficult, and failure is frequent. But this is intentional. Psychologists have shown that failure is a critical part of learning and growth. In the face of repeated setbacks, players are forced to become flexible, to adapt, to communicate better, and to improve as a team. The result? A cycle of frustration, determination, and eventual triumph. A process that mirrors real-life resilience building and the psychology of Souls games. In Helldivers 2, you're not just fighting aliens, you're fighting for Super Earth, a regime so saturated with propaganda that it is impossible to ignore. Every mission briefing, every victory announcement, every slogan screams loyalty to the cause, but beneath the satire lies a deeper question. How does the game's depiction of government propaganda manipulate players psychologically, and what does it say about we as humans and how we respond to authority? Well, let's start with the basics of propaganda. Super Earth uses classic techniques to command loyalty. Exaggerated patriotism, a relentless focus on collective good, and a clear enemy to rally against. This mirrors real-world governments that have historically used propaganda to unify people under their banner, often by dehumanizing the other. In Helldivers 2, alien species are reduced to mindless threats, obstacles in your path to victory. They're not individuals with agency, they're targets. And this is intentional. This is by design. It's much easier to justify violence when you see your enemies as faceless dangers rather than beings with lives and histories of their own. But the game doesn't stop at dehumanizing the enemy. It's also laser-focused on building loyalty to the in-group, your team, and, by extension, Super Earth. Psychologists call this social identity theory. The idea that people derive self-esteem and meaning from their group affiliations. In Helldivers 2, you're constantly reminded that you're a Helldiver, a hero fighting for humanity's survival. You see, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about the individual. It's not even about us. It's about the collective, the mission, the glory, and the legacy of Super Earth. Choosing what we leave behind for future generations to come, and this framing pushes players to align with the regime's goals, even when the goals are morally questionable. Are the Helldivers and Super Earth the good guys, or are they the bad guys? At first glance, the answer seems obvious because that's what we're being fed. The Helldivers are humanity's elite fighting force, defending Super Earth from relentless alien threats. Their missions are framed as a fight for survival, a noble cause, honor, to protect the human race. But beneath this heroic exterior lies a more complicated question. Are they truly the heroes of this story, or are we fighting for a system that might be just as dangerous as the enemies we face? And what if those enemies actually had a legit reason to be fighting against Super Earth? And what if those reasons aren't what managed democracy claims it to be? Well, let's imagine and start with why the Helldivers in Super Earth might be the good guys. First and foremost, this is a war for survival. The Terminids with their overwhelming swarms, and the Automatons with their calculated precision, and the Illuminate with their alien tech and their turning of humans into voteless zombies pose an existential threat to humanity. These aren't just factions that humanity can reason with, they're forces that hate freedom and will stop at nothing to destroy human civilization. In this context, the Helldivers' actions are not only justified, they are essential. Without them, humanity would be wiped out. Then there's the unity provided by Super Earth. Its managed democracy may seem authoritarian, but it ensures stability in a galaxy rife with chaos. In times of war, cohesion is critical, and Super Earth provides a unified front against enemies that seek to annihilate humanity. The Helldivers are the ultimate symbol of this unity, showing that humans can band together to achieve impossible victories. Their sacrifices inspire loyalty, courage, and cooperation. The threats faced by humanity are undeniable. This isn't a case of misunderstood alien species or miscommunication. I mean, sweet liberty. There is no room for diplomacy, only survival. In this sense, the Helldivers are fighting a just war to protect their species, their women and children from extinction. But what if the Helldivers in Super Earth aren't the good guys? What if we're the bad guys? Super Earth's entire system is built on imperialistic expansion. The doctrine of managed democracy isn't about coexistence, it's about domination. Every mission you undertake as a Helldiver isn't about self-defense, it's about spreading the regime's influence across the galaxy. Super Earth doesn't coexist with other civilization, it exploits them or destroys them. When humanity first encountered this insectoid species, they may not have been inherently hostile, but instead of pursuing diplomacy or just leaving nature alone, Super Earth saw an opportunity. Terminids were reduced to a commodity. Colonies established to farm them on an industrial scale. Cyborgs were enslaved, and the Illuminate had their technology liberated from them. And then that brings us to managed democracy itself. While it claims to represent freedom, it's really just the system of control. Managed democracy, controlled freedom. Citizens are told that they have a voice, but every decision is carefully managed to serve the state's interests. This isn't a government built on liberty, it's one built on compliance. If the system you're fighting for doesn't value freedom, is it really worth defending? And what about the Helldivers themselves? They're celebrated as heroes, but they're treated as hilariously expendable. Their missions are deadly by design, and their survival is secondary to the regime's goals. Every sacrifice they make is glorified in propaganda, but beneath the surface, they're just tools. Super Earth doesn't care about the individual Helldiver. It cares about what they do before they die, how much they do before they die, and they're ready to drop replacements at the drop of a dime. So, are the Helldivers and Super Earth the good guys? Well, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. The line between hero and villain isn't as clear as it might seem. So, what does it all mean? The game does a tremendous job at asking players to think critically about their role in the system while simultaneously making them complicit in it. It is a clever, biting satire, and it's more relevant than ever. The brilliance of Helldivers 2 is how it uses its gameplay to delve into these deep, psychological themes. And for those of you who go beyond, it challenges you to think critically about the morality of humanity's actions, cooperation, sacrifice, and loyalty while still delivering a chaotic, adrenaline-fueled experience. But if you want to see another story about brotherhood, teamwork, and glorious battle, click this video on the screen to see the incredible story of Warhammer 40k.